Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call this May 1st, 2024 meeting of the Platting Board to order. It is 6:33 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Ryan Mormon.
Present.
Stacy Wessel.
Present.
Jessica Smith.
Present.
Skylar Quinn.
Here.
Sarah Catherine Bryan. Patrick Jones.
Present.
Brandy Pennington. You have a quorum. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Moved by Mr. Quinn and seconded by Mr. Jones to approve. Are there any corrections or objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Are there any disclosures?
This is Jessica Smith. I have a disclosure, please. I would just like to say that I was absent from the March 6, 2024 meeting, and I will need to abstain from voting on the consent agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other disclosures?
I'm having trouble raising my hand.
Oh.
I'd like to disclose that I was also... Okay, I was just instructed to turn it off, so I was also absent from the March 6th meeting and will abstain from voting on the consent agenda. Furthermore, I've listened to the audio related to case number S12713 and can participate in case S1765. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any more disclosures?
I have a couple disclosures. I've listened to the audio for case S12713 and can participate in case, is that the right case? 1 second. And can participate in case S12765. So just wanted to disclose that I wasn't here for that, or I wasn't a part of the board during that original board meeting. And then I have 2 more disclosures. I need to, in case S12767, I need to recuse myself from voting on that. I have a direct financial conflict, and I would ask for either a ruling of the chair or a vote of this body to not allow my participation in that case.
Since Mr. Quinn has a direct conflict, we will ask you to recuse yourself. You can leave the meeting during that time and come back afterwards.
Thank you, Chair. And then my last disclosure is for case S12765. I just want to note that the applicant's representative, S4 Group, is a company that my company has an ongoing business relationship with.
Thank you.
But I don't have any, I don't have any special knowledge or anything to do with that case.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Any other disclosures?
I have a disclosure. I've listened to the audio of related case S12713 and can participate in case S12765, as I was not on the board at the time that was originally presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I was present at the April 19, 2023 meeting when related to case S12713 was initially heard and can participate in case S12765.
I also wanted to disclose several years ago regarding case S12767 that I was a surveyor along that portion of the 50-foot Commissioner's Deed of Vacation along that front end and surveyed the several encroachments that were there.
Thank you, Ms. Wessel. Do you have any special knowledge or financial gains or interests?
No, I do not have any special knowledge or financial gains at this moment. In talking with the Platting Board, they are currently approving the plat for that area, so therefore it's a non-issue.
Thank you. And as for myself, Ryan Mormon, I was present at the April 19th, 2023 meeting when related case S12713 was initially heard and can participate in case S12765. It'll be just 1 minute as we catch Ms. Pennington up and get... Okay. And again, Ms. Pennington has arrived at 6:39 p.m. Ms. Pennington, do you have any disclosures?
I have listened to the audio related to case S12713, and I can participate in case S12765.
And do you have any financial interest in this case? Or?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please. So reading into the record, informational items, abbreviated plat action summaries for 3/26/2024, 4/15 of 2024, and 4/22 of 2024. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion to approve was moved by Ms. Pennington and Mr. Quinn. Anyone wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. And tonight we'd like to make a motion to reorder the agenda to hear case S12767 before case S12765. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board. Oh yes, can I please have a motion to change the order of the day? To just change the case order. May I please have a motion to change the order of the cases? Perfect. Moved by Mr. Quinn, seconded by Ms. Wessel. Now going forward, the procedure by which the public may speak to the, what? Oh, a vote. I do apologize here.
Jessica, how do you vote on changing the order of the day?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion has passed. Now we will begin. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at this meeting is, 1, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established by the Commission's rules of procedure. A, petitioners, including all his/her representatives, are given 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. B, representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc. are given 5 minutes. And C, individuals are given 3 minutes. Number 3, when your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. Number 4, any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the board's decision to made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 21.03.050A.4.A. Following approval of a written findings of fact and decisions, any party of interest may, within 20 days, file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with Section 2103.050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the applicant is not the applicant, or if the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. So I'm going to put on the record as of now that Mr. Quinn has recused himself and will leave the room. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. I'd like now to ask for staff's presentation, S12767.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide one lot and one tract into 2 lots with vacation of the 50-foot Patton Roadway Reserve, patent number 1231811, along the north and west property boundary dedicated by Book 258, page 378A. The purpose of this plat is to create 2 lots with proper access and configuration in anticipation of redevelopment. So the petition site is located east of Lake Ridge Drive, south of Monroe Avenue, and north of the Old Glen Highway. The proposed lots and tract meet the minimum lot size, flag length, and width required by the CE B3 zoning district. The Municipal Traffic Department and State of Alaska Department of Transportation Public Facilities requests a plat note that both lots shall share one common driveway access to the Old Glen Highway. Planning has requested this as a condition of approval. There is a prior platting action, S12737, that creates a Tract B, which is a portion of this proposed subdivision. As such, the final plat for S12737 needs to record before the proposed plat tonight can be finalized, and planning has placed this as a condition of approval. I'll elaborate on that at the end of the staff report. The B3SL district per AO 8565 limits the building height to 35 feet and requires 10-foot buffer landscaping along all lot lines adjacent to residential districts. Monroe Avenue is an undeveloped 60-foot right-of-way that could potentially provide access from East Lake Ridge Drive to the subject properties. Lot 101B has a flag configuration for access and utilities. Staff has requested a condition of approval to dedicate 30 feet by 30 feet of right-of-way at the southeast intersection of Monroe Avenue and Raylene Street. This will allow for improvements of the intersection and legal and physical access for the lots 101A and 101B, in addition to the vacation of that underlying patent roadway reserve. So in the matter of the vacation request for the roadway reserve, they're requesting the vacation of that. Staff finds that the standards 1 through 6, staff finds condition number 1 has been met. The traffic engineer department states in their comments that they have no objection to the vacation within the proposed condition to dedicate that 30 by 30 foot section at the intersection. Staff finds condition 2 has been met. The section pertaining to the Platt roadway reservation right-of-way is not listed in the classification listings of streets in the official streets and highways plan. The patent roadway reserve is not lying on the half-mile grid or the quarter-mile grid, condition 3 and 4 standard. 5, the remaining property will be served by existing and dedicated right-of-way. The vacation will not have any impact on traffic circulation. Raylene Street serves an R7 zone neighborhood and does not connect to the Old Glen Highway. If Raylene Street is improved in the future, there is sufficient area to construct a residential cul-de-sac north of the petition site where there is 30 feet of dedicated right-of-way and 50 feet road of reserve easement or connection through Monroe Avenue to East Lake Ridge Drive, which connects on out to the Old Glen Highway. Staff finds standard 6 has been met. There is no realignment of roadway proposed, and the vacation will not impact existing traffic circulation. Any utility easements will be placed on the plat. Private development, right-of-way, the municipal traffic department, and ADOT PF have no objections to the vacation because there will be adequate rights-of-way for traffic circulation. Generally, reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to the vacation requests. Therefore, staff believes that the 50-foot patent roadway reserve along the north and west of the property is in excess of municipal need and recommends approval of this vacation subject to conditions and the platting action, subject to conditions A1 and B1 through 6. However, planning, as I mentioned, I'm going to discuss a little bit more because as you see tonight, there is a supplemental packet with some questions. So this is the long plat that we're seeing tonight, and underneath that prior is the S12737 that I mentioned, which was an abbreviated plat process that went through the planning department. I passed out a color kind of diagram there, and what that is going to create is, you can see in the red, a tract A, a tract B, and a lot 1. That plat has to be recorded before tonight's plat can be recorded, and that would be conditioned on here on the plat. As condition 7 is what I want to add. That plat S12737 is recorded before this plat can record. I also would like to add another condition onto the plat, and it's in regards to what I pointed out with the color map. That's going to create some tracks there, and we're going to hear probably testimony tonight in regards to access. So with the vacation of the north and west side 50-foot patent roadway reserve, we would like to add a resolve to potentially provide a recorded access agreement to lot 100 along the north property line there, or through the future subdivided tract A. So I'll read that. The clerk has the wording. Resolve with planning the need to provide a recorded access agreement between BLM lot 100 and tract A per plat S12737, or a recorded access agreement between BLM lot 100 and lot 101B per tonight's plat S12767. So the clerk, there'll be 2 extra conditions of approval. There'll be a 7 and an 8. We can put 7 and 8.
Can you please clarify what number 8 is?
8 will be what the clerk has in front of her with the resolve with the planning department, the recorded access. And 7 can be, I'll read it specifically, but plat S12737 to be recorded and finalized before plat S12767 is recorded. Thank you.
Do we have any questions of staff? Any questions of the petitioner? I'd like to now open the hearing to public testimony first. If anyone from the, S4 group.
Yeah, Craig Bennett, petitioner's representative. All right, thank you, Chairman, members of the board, planning staff. My name is Craig Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. I'm with S4 Group and representing the petitioner. And I do want to thank staff again for all the work they've done on this one. And with the extra conditions, it kept them busy. So this is a fairly simple subdivision, so I'll just be brief. Some of the main points. This is a request to subdivide 2 parcels into 2 different parcels with a vacation of a patent reserve on the north and west side of the property. We are dedicating right-of-way in the northwest corner per staff's request. There were no objections for this platting action by any of the reviewing agencies. We had a good community meeting and there were no objections from the community at the time. This conforms to the comprehensive plans and current zoning. And I'll conclude that we agree to all the department recommendations. The department recommends approval of the plat and the vacation. And I ask the board to approve the subdivision plat. And thank you for your time, and I'll reserve the rest of the time for rebuttal and answer any questions the board may have on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any questions of the petitioner?
I do have a question for you, thank you. Can you explain the access to lot, BLM Lot 100, please, and how that would work with this proposed subdivision?
Sure. So through the chair, Lot 100 is not part of this subdivision. It's part of the underlying subdivision that's about to be recorded. And what it is, there's a 50-foot wide tract right now existing along Old Glen Highway in front of 3 parcels. And the plat, the short plat that's going through, about to be recorded here shortly, will make a tract A in front of Lot 100. And right now, Lot 100 is using their driveway, goes through that tract. And if they cannot get an access agreement or easement through that current abbreviated plat, we're prepared to provide an access agreement or easement on the north side of our parcel 101. So we don't have any control over that proposed tract A or the lot 100. Different owners, different petitioners. Did that answer?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any additional questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Hearing none, we'd like to open the hearing to public testimony. Anyone from the public wishing to come up and speak, please come forward.
Dick Hamilton. I own property directly across on Upper Fire Lake from this lot.
Oh, Mr. Hamilton, before you begin, would you mind speaking into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
And can you please just state and spell your name for the record, sir?
The what?
Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Okay, it's Richard Hamilton or Dick Hamilton, and Hamilton, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
A concern that I have, I have 3 lots on Upper Fire Lake. They're lakefront lots. 2 of them are lakefront. And I made you'll have to forgive me, I can't hardly make a sentence. I've lost a lot of family this year. And my older son 3 weeks ago, my wife a year ago, 2 brothers before that, and I've got cancer. So, and we all had cancer, and there's no genetics involved, different types. Anyway, so when I get above it, I lose my thoughts. I went through Eklutna and bought one of their lots to add 3,000 or so feet to one of the lots that we had that another fellow and I owned. And so in doing that, Eklutna is involved, and that involved the BLM. And so when it came time to send information to the BLM, and I had people doing some of this, I don't know whether it was my fault, their fault, or whether they lost it at the BLM, but it's the letter from the state that says, yes, you have this, you have this, you have this, and so on. Just in other words, I can use that property subject to those conditions. And so it turns out now that it appears to me that other people, my understanding is that it goes back to the adjoining landowners as a state law. And that's what my surveyor told me. If it's not going back to them, then some way we're doing this patent reservation, and they own that 50-foot easement. They adjoin it. But there are people, I think, that are filing for these things that don't own it, and we're not notified. Now, I was not, some way or other, we did not get this letter from the state that BLM required. They had run a notice in the paper, evidently, for 2 or 3 months, gave you 10 days to get them notified. Once you did this, that involves Eklutna, that involves the state and BLM. So I'm commercial fishing. I've done it for 47 years. I'm out of town, and I worked on the North Slope. And coming in, going out, takes several months to get ready and go. Anyway, I'm trying to find out who does what in this regard. And I've talked to several people. They've been very nice, and I've shuttled around everything. But it appears the state, some way, people need to know more about what the state's doing and how to do this, what it is they're wanting, you know. And some people been darn nice to help me and so forth, but there just appears to not be an end. And the thing I'm understanding is go see the surveyors. Okay, so.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Would staff care to try to answer any of Mr. Hamilton's questions regarding the legality of this 50-foot?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Dave Whitfield. I'm the current planning manager for the municipality of Anchorage, as well as the planning officer. And I appreciate your comments and your concern. However, with respect to ownership of the reconveyed parcel, my recommendation would be to reach out to the state. The Platting Board doesn't take up the issue of ownership, nor does the municipality of Anchorage's planning department.
While your concerns are valid, potentially, my recommendation would be to reach out to the state on this matter.
Well, I'm trying, and I've tried, and so I've got to go to the surveyors, I think.
If you'd like, I'd be happy to give you my card, and you can reach out to me perhaps tomorrow, and I can put you in contact with some folks.
You bet you, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely,
I've
sir.
had a lot of good people try to help me now. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's not anybody's fault, and I don't know why this document didn't get into BLM, but I have the document.
Absolutely. I'll give you my card, sir.
So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Anyway,
But I'm going to have to ask for the
that's
next
all right. I
person.
understand.
And we would be
Oh,
happy,
one
Mr.
thing-
Whitfield and
one
the
thing I did
representative
wanna
would be
say
happy
that I
to.
have no objections to what they're doing.
Oh,
you
perfect,
know.
thank you.
I'm not objecting to that.
Well, thank you for coming in your testimony. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to testify? If so, please come forward. Welcome.
I'm Molly Elton, E-L-T-O-N. I live on East Lake Ridge Drive. We had a couple apartment buildings going a few years ago, and there was a meeting like this, which I didn't come to. I had been told the road was going to the old Glen, but it didn't. It has come to our road, and now there's probably 10 times as much traffic as used to be. And I tried, just like Mr. Hamilton, I looked up online what was available, and then I tried calling the municipality, and no one answered, and no one called me back. And I just wanted to know where the road was going. That was my only question, but I couldn't get an answer. So I am just here asking, they mentioned East Lake Ridge Drive, but then they also didn't say that's where the road was going. So is that where the road is going? The access to this plat or whatever they're doing. How do we know? How do we get that information?
Would the petitioner care to speak to this? In the end, during the rebuttal, Ms. Elton, we will actually have the petitioner come up and answer those questions for you.
This is not, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, this is the time to be asking those questions. But the S4 group will come back up and answer those questions. And I'm quite certain after the meeting even, they'll spend some time with anyone in the audience that wishes to go over the detailed drawings. Thank you. Anyone else care to come up and speak? Oh, please come forward. Please state your name and spell it for us.
Melinda Parks, and it's M-E-L-I-N-D-A, Parks, P-A-R-K-S.
Thank you.
And my mom owns Lot 100, and our concern is the access to that lot. I know there's talk of using Monroe and possibly coming in behind there, but there's a wetland back there, and access, I mean, it's really swampy, and that to build an access back there would be very expensive. And so we just kind of want to make sure, and they're talking about giving us an easement there, but we just want to make sure that we go on record with our concerns.
Would staff care to speak to that? Oh, the rebuttal, I'm sorry. I'm getting used to this myself. But yes, again, the S4 group, the petitioner will have some answers for you. Ms. Parks?
Okay,
Thank you. Are there any other individuals from the audience that wish to come forward and speak? Seeing none, we'd like to open this up to phone, the individuals on the phone.
My cell phone might be turned off right now. I'll call you when I get this message.
Let's see here. Well, we'll try the next one.
Thank you for being patient. It does take a few minutes to get everyone from the phone. Thank you.
This is Ty.
So is this Ty?
Yeah.
This is the Platting Board calling for public testimony in case S12767. Are you testifying as an individual or representing a group?
Representing my mom
Okay,
in lot 100.
correct. Okay, you will have 3 minutes to testify. Please state your full name for the record, and you can begin your testimony.
It's Ty, T-Y, Newman, N-E-W-M-A-N. And so my questions are, like, once this is all done, who will be the owner of Tract A is the first question. The second is, let's see, it was like my sister Melinda just spoke, so the same question about access across that 50-foot right-of-way there. And then also, I'm looking at my notes here, how wide will the easement across that be? Will it be in the same location? Let's see. If will there be sewer and water access across Tract A to Lot 100? And then the other question is, so the other thing I have to say is that Monroe, or Raylene, was it Monroe Road, or the road on the north side of the Lot 101 and 101B or whatever it is, like my sister said, it is a bog back there. There's an actual creek behind Lot 100 that kind of starts to cut away to the north, just past the end of our Lot 100, and it will be literally impossible to put a road there. And I actually spoke with the city a couple years ago, and they said the wetlands, I forget the ratings, what they call it, but they said they would not allow a permit in that wetland area to put a road at that Lot 100 because it's just too soupy there. And I know that for a fact because it's a named creek now, but my dad actually put that in there, dug it out with track hose and when it was still froze. But well, let's see. I think that's mostly what I wanted to say. But just access to the backside is just not possible. And if the city can go look at it, they'll probably verify it, and we just need to work out something with that crossing that. The other thing is we've been crossing that the frontage road since 1967, and also originally it was BLM road right of way, and my mom's property butted up to the right of way. And then eventually it was conveyed to the natives in the Native Claims Settlement Act bill. And so we just feel like access through the front or from the south side is the only way we'll be able to accept it. Are you there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Newman.
Okay. I can't hear if you're asking questions.
Mr. Newman, no,
we just feel like access
we
to
have
the
not
front
asked any questions, and we can still hear you. As for our group, please take that back, Mr. Newman. We do have a question from another board member.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Newman. I guess my question for you is, do you know who owns Tract A, and are you, have you
Well,
been part of that
whole lot the lot you guys are dividing is owned by not Quinn, but the other landowner. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I can look at the guy that owns lot 101A. He bought Tract A, which used to be lot 104. Can you hear me?
Do you
so he bought lot 104 from the natives when the natives were able to sell their land. And this is where all this really began to be a mess.
Do you have access through Tract A currently?
Yeah, we have the same access that we've been using for since 1967. And so it's right off the Oak Glen Highway. It literally cuts across that 50-foot section, kind of on the, it'd be the, I forget what direction it'd be, but the Glen Highway side, closer to Lot 101B. It's actually really close to there.
Thank you for answering the questions.
Yeah. And it's been the same access since 1967.
Any additional questions?
No, that's just our concern is access to the property. I mean, we've owned it for, how long it has been. So just work out what's fair and right. And because it's not possible, and you guys can go behind and look at the land behind it, and it's not possible to put a road behind my mom's property. Because I think the wetland laws, or I don't even know that stuff, but the rules are, but they probably won't allow it, so. That's all my questions, so.
Oh, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Newman.
Hello?
Hello, is this Mr. Johnson?
It is.
This is the Platting Board calling for public testimony in case S12767. Are you testifying as an individual or representing a group?
Just as an individual.
Okay, you will have 3 minutes to testify. Please state your full name for the record, and you can begin your testimony.
Okay, yeah, my name's Joseph Johnson. I can make this pretty quick for you guys. I sent in an email to have you guys call me before I really was able to read through all the documents online, take a look at it. While I'm not crazy about probably another, large apartment building going up near my neighborhood, the main thing I wanted to make sure was that the access to these two lots that they're looking at subdividing was going to be off the Old Glen Highway and not from East Lake Ridge Drive. And it looks like that's the plan, so I'm happy with that. I did see a note about a potential future use for Monroe Avenue and a 30 by 30 easement over there. And just my input there is that won't work without moving somebody's house, which is looks like to me it's kind of built on that easement. And anyway, so that's my thoughts on the Monroe access point for a future use. But yeah, anyway, I appreciate you guys calling me. It looks like everybody's working hard on that, and I want to let you guys get back to your real life there.
Okay, thank you for testimony.
All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'd like to invite the S4 group back up for the rebuttal.
Thank you, Craig Bennett. And I want to thank the 5 people who testified. I think I'll be able to answer these questions fairly quickly. For Mr. Hamilton, I'd suggest speaking to a surveyor about his easement questions with the state. And for road location, There is no road being built part of this plat. Access will be from the old Glen, and per staff's comment, it'll be restricted to one driveway. And for the comments on access to lot 101, I think there's a little bit of confusion. This platting action is not involving that tract A, and the Hugh Hall does not own that tract A, and that's a separate plat. And I do understand not wanting to take access through our lot 101 property on the north side, realizing that would be difficult, and I do agree that access through that proposed tract A would be much more convenient, especially since the house has been using it since 1967, but like I said, that's not part of this plat. And the final comment, access is off the old Glen. And did the board have any other questions for me on this plat?
So I guess I had a question / comment would be, if we vacated this 50-foot patent reservation for roadway and utilities, exactly how will BLM Lot 100 access their lot? Has it been addressed through the MOA, or have you addressed this with the owners?
Yeah, thank you. So currently, BLM Lot 100 is accessing through Tract A to the old Glen. We're proposing to provide them, if they cannot get a access agreement with the owner of Tract A, we will provide them an access agreement through our proposed 101B on the north side, a 20-foot access agreement, if they're not able to work it out with the current owner of Tract A.
Who's going to build the road or the access?
It would be a driveway, and they would be responsible to build the driveway, but we would provide an access. Yeah, the current access is through that Tract A, and it would be, I believe, very difficult, like they were saying, to actually use, to come through this property for their house. I think it would be very difficult, but we would be able to provide them an easement if required. And I believe comment or condition 8, as staff was saying.
Is that part of condition 8 for the staff?
Through the chair, Ms. Wesley, yes, that is correct.
Okay, but essentially, if we do approve this, we are kind of landlocking BLM 100.
Through the chair, Ms. Wessel, the intent is to provide them with easement. So, and I recognize that, you know, the property may be difficult to access via Monroe. However, the intent is to provide them access with the understanding that they may not be able to negotiate an easement through Tract A.
I believe the owner of Tract A is willing to sell, but I don't know for how much.
Are there any more questions?
I have one more question. It appears to me that Lot 101B will be accessed through Monroe Avenue, hence the flag lot. That's its intent.
No, so driveway access will be from the old Glen. It'll be a shared access. The reason for that flag is sewer. Okay. To have utilities, we have to be able to front over there. You can't have a service going across, so that's the purpose of that flag portion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question. So if a sale of Lot 101A is not possible, you're still in the process of negotiating an easement, I feel like there might be a conflict, or I feel like leaving it up to the parties might be irresponsible on our part if, you know, you wish to acquire this lot and are landlocking it. Can you address that concern? Or perhaps I've misunderstood what's going on.
I guess, could you say that again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
So you mentioned that 101A might be sold. You're also saying that as a condition 8 involves negotiating an easement. It sounds like you would have the upper hand in that negotiation.
Oh,
or
I understand what you're saying.
a potential sales negotiation if, you've landlocked the land. I think that you would not say that out loud.
I understand what you're saying.
You know what, yeah. Okay.
Through the chair, there's two separate things. So if you turn to page 36 in your packet, you can see a layout of the property in Tract A and Lot 101. So 101 currently is accessing their driveway through that proposed Tract A out in front. That's not part of this subdivision. 101 would need to negotiate with the owner of Tract A for that access. We're not part of that Tract A or the 100. What we're offering is Lot 100, an easement across the north side as just part of our plat, no conditions. Here's an access easement. If they cannot work out an agreement with their current driveway. So it wouldn't cost them anything. It would just be part of the plat providing that easement.
That clarification is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question for you. So access is one thing, but you mentioned the sewer was the primary reason for the flag lot for 101B. Mm-hmm. So if BLM lot 100 ever needed sewer, public sewer facilities, they would have no public way of getting that to their property. Is that correct?
So there's multiple, avenues. So we're bringing up water up the old Glen, and AWU is still working with us on what that looks like. Typically, we don't submit too much to AWU until the plat's been approved, then we move forward. There is a sewer line that goes down the west side of the property, and we are accessing proposed lot 101B from that. And then the sewer line goes down to the old Glen, all down that west side, and I believe there's a manhole in the southwest corner of the property. And whether AWU's going to say bring up sewer farther, same as water, that's up to AWU.
Sure, but if the owner of BLM lot 100, or if they ever sold it to somebody else, wanted to put in the sewer infrastructure, normally, would they not be able to connect to the...
That's not, no. I can bounce that back to planning staff, but it's a roadway reserve. It's not dedicated right-of-way. And AWU, that would be a service line going across a property, is my understanding, and I believe AWU would say, no, it needs to be in right-of-way, such as the old Glen. But I'll let planning either confirm or contradict me on that one.
Okay, appreciate that.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, Mr. Bennett is in fact correct. While sewer service would be easily obtained through Lot 101B for Lot 100, because AWU tariff prohibits the crossing of property lines for sewer, they wouldn't be able to obtain their sewer service in that way.
And that would have been the case whether this was developed or not, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to confirm that BLM lot 101 did in fact buy Tract B, hence this platting action. Or they're in the process of buying Tract B.
Even the process, I don't know where that stands.
Okay.
Am I hearing any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'd like to close this to the public hearing. What is the will of the body? And I will need, this case also does require 2 individual motions to be voted on separately. So the first motion is on your screen. which is the, okay. Okay, the motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Ms. Pennington. Mr. Jones, would you please state your motion?
Yes, thank you. I move in case S12767 to approve the vacation of a 50-foot patent roadway reserve, patent number 1231811, recorded by book 258, page 378A, along the west property boundary, subject to the conditions shown on page 9 of the staff report.
Mr. Jones, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, appreciate all the public testimony today on this matter, but it does appear that the petitioner has shown that they've done what they can do with their property in terms of dividing it and providing, if they cannot get an access easement for BLM Lot 100, they'd be willing to work with that. So I think we can support this and urge my board members to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Pennington, will you please speak to your second?
In the case of
Oh, Mike.
Thank you. In the case of S12767, I move to approve, I second the motion to approve the vacation of 50-foot patented roadway reserve, patent number 1231811, recorded, hello, good morning, good night. It's been a long day. Recorded by book 258, page 378A, along with the west property boundary, subject to the condition shown on page 9 of the staff report.
Do you have any findings, Ms. Pennington, that you'd like to add?
I do not at this time.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Any other members, please add findings? All right, may I please move this to a vote?
Ms. Smith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion to approve has passed, 6 yes, 0 no's. Secondly, we'd like to create a second motion, is for the 24-month plat. May I have a motion? All right, the motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Wessel and seconded by Ms. Bryan. Ms. Wessel, will you please state your motion?
I move in case S126 767 to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions shown on pages 9 and 10 of the staff report, with the additions of condition B.7 that reads, S12737 is to be recorded and finalized prior to the recording of S12767. And condition B8 that reads, resolve with planning the need to provide a recorded access agreement between BLM Lot 100 and Tract A, S12737, or a recorded access agreement between BLM Lot 100 and Lot 101B, S12767.
Thank you, Ms. Wessa. Will you please speak to your motion?
Given that the MOA has no objections and that satisfied all the conditions of approval, I agree with them regarding the staff packet. Additionally, Lot BLM 100 is doing its due diligence on regarding their access. So I move to approve it.
Thank you. Ms. Byron, as a seconder, will you please speak to your second?
Thank you. I, Sarah Catherine Bryan, second the motion in case S12767 to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions shown on pages 9 and 10 of the staff report, with the conditions of, with the additions of condition B7 that reads, S12737 is to be recorded and finalized prior to the recording of S12767, and condition B8 that reads, resolve with planning the need to provide a recorded access agreement between BLM Lot 100 and Tract A, S12737, or a recorded access agreement between BLM Lot 100 and Lot 101B, S12767.
Well, thank you, Ms. Byron. Would you care to speak to your second?
My last name is pronounced Brian.
Oh, Brian.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
So I think that condition B8 specifically addresses some of the community's concerns about accessing their property. And so I think that in addition to Ms. Wessel's comments and the municipality's contributions, this should pass.
Thank you. Any other members, please speak or add findings? Hearing none, can we please have a vote?
Ms. Smith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
There has been a motion to approve with 6 yes and 5 noes. Oh, 0 noes. Sorry about that. Okay, in this case,
You want to clarify, Ms. Smith's going to leave?
okay. I do need to clarify that Ms. Smith is,
Leaving the meeting.
yeah, is going to be leaving the meeting. She is on the phone via the East Coast. And thank you for tuning in tonight and helping the board out.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good one.
We'd also like to ask Mr. Quinn to come back to the meeting. And if you'll give us a minute for him to come take a seat, that would be great. All right, may we please have the staff's presentation in case S12765.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Read into the document here. So on April 19th, 2023, the Platting Board approved case S12713, which is a subdivision of Mills Subdivision Tracts A, B, and C. Then on May 3rd, 2023, the Platting Board approved the findings of fact. Subsequent to the Platting Board's decisions, members of the public filed an appeal to the Board of Adjustment, which deliberated and decided the appeal at a meeting open to the public on January 26, 2024. By vote, the Board of Adjustment concluded that omitting the Falsey letter from the information submitted to the Platting Board was a substantial procedural error requiring further public hearing. As a result, the Board of Adjustment remanded the issue to the Platting Board with directions to take action whether Bonnie Lane Road complies with street width code requirements, the Falsey letter, and conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity. The Board of Adjustment Appeal number 2023-01 is attached as part of the packet. So the decision, and that's the only thing that the board is considering tonight, the decision is the Platting Board must take action whether Bonnie Lane Road complies with street width code requirements, the Falsey letter, and the conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity. And if we turn to page 11 of the staff packet, at the very bottom there, number 4, you can see the Board of Adjustment remands the case to the Platting Board for further consideration to determine whether the Mills subdivision complies with street width code requirements. On remand of the Platting Board, the Platting Board must consider the Falsey letter, the conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity, and whether Bonnie Lane Road complies with street width code requirements. That's the only thing tonight that we're considering, and you're maybe making a motion on. So I can kind of explain some here. Planning concludes that the written agency comments attached in the staff packet recommending dedication of 25 feet of right-of-way for Bonnie Lane Road does comply with street width code requirements, and as stated by private development traffic, it serves as access to the existing structure on proposed Tract A. And as any further development or further subdivision could require improvements to Bonnie Lane Road. Now, in the matter of the Falsey letter, that was omitted from the original planning application that came in. If we turn to page 23 of our staff report, so the Falsey letter starts on page 26 to 29, but if we turn to page 23, and we look at the very bottom there, from Dave Whitfield to Bill Falsey, it says, received, this is on February 2nd, 2023. It says, received, thank you, Bill. All attached documents will be included as comments when the plat is submitted. So that was long before the first initial platting application was even brought into the planning department. So what happened there is the planning department forgot to include that, and that was not submitted by any other member of the public or by Mr. Falsey himself once the planning department received an official application. That's why that Falsey letter was not in there. Now, the Falsey letter, though, if that would have been included, it wouldn't have mattered, because if we read the Falsey letter, I'll just turn to one page here. Let me try to find that for you. If we turn to page 28 of in the Falsey letter there, it would be, I guess, the second paragraph from the bottom, and it says, the municipality of Anchorage determined that there is no section line easement along the west boundary, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that was in error. So the Falsey letter really didn't have a bearing on the plat, because the section line easement does exist. So if we turn to page 3 of the staff packet, and there we have an email from the municipal surveyor, and I'll read it to go onto the record. It says, during the municipality's Canyon Road Improvement Project, I conducted research into whether or not a section line easements exist directly adjacent to the property involved in the Mills subdivision plat. At the time, my research concluded that no section line existed. However, subsequent research and a written opinion by the Department of Natural Resources, DNR, they're the authority on this, has determined that my original conclusion was in error. I, as the municipal surveyor, agree with DNR's opinion that a 33-foot section line easement exists on the east side of the Mills property. So as I'll reread tonight our decision. Our decision is going to be with the street code with requirements. That Falsey letter that originally didn't get put into the original staff packet, and the reason we find that is because we forgot. However, it is false. And then also conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity. However, there is no conflicting evidence. The DNR and the municipal surveyor have determined that there is a 33-foot section line easement on the east side of the Mills property. That concludes my testimony. I can or answer any questions that you may have or direction.
Are there any questions to staff?
Just a point of clarification. Did you say that the municipal surveyor, his findings indicated that there was no section line easement, but then the DNR said we have a section line easement? And is there evidence in this packet?
Through the chair, Ms. Pennington, that was yes, we have the municipal surveyor here tonight, Donna Brecken, and she can explain this.
Through the chair, my name is Donna Brecken. I'm the municipal surveyor. The policy letter refers to a section line easement determination that was made for a municipal road project. At that time, I did the work to do the determination and I incorrectly evaluated that section line easement by not looking at one particular piece of evidence. That determination was in our file when the Mills plat came forward. We just continued with that determination. The surveyor, S4, asked DNR to evaluate the section line easement, and they determined that there was one there. I've reviewed the report, and I see the error that I made, and it is correct that there's a section line easement. DNR is the statutory authority for section line easements. The municipality is not. We routinely look at those and research those for our road projects, or for, we'll be asked to do that sometimes for plats, but we are not the authority on section line easements. So there really is no question. It was just an error that we made for a municipal road project, and it was just carried forward and applied to this project. And like I said, it turns out that I ignored an important piece of information when I was making that determination. So it is clear to me that there is a section line easement there.
Yeah, I think you do great work, and so I wouldn't put any blame or fault on you. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't being pressured to make a decision that wasn't in line with how you felt.
No, no.
Thank you.
Any additional questions to the staff?
I do have a question. So we're talking specifically about the east side of the Mills property, correct? That the section line easement exists there?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. Does that then mean that on the adjacent property there to the east, there would be an additional 33-foot section line easement on their property as well?
You mean to the west? No, there is not one on that side.
Okay. So there's just the 30.
Determining, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Determining section line easements is kind of a tricky thing, and I don't want to go into all of it, but it's based on dates of survey and dates of entry, and as it turns out that the stars align for the west side of the line, and there is no section line easement. But based on dates and when the range line was surveyed, there is one on the east side.
Any additional questions to staff from the board? Hearing none, I'd like to open this up to public hearing and testimony. Anyone from the public wishing to come up and speak? Hello.
Thank you. Becky Lipson, Lipson, on behalf of petitioner from the law firm of Ashburn and Mason. Staff has outlined the three issues before you tonight. The first was the procedural error, which has been cured since it's included in your packet. And I do encourage you to review the policy letter and consider that in making your determination tonight. You should be making your determination based on all the evidence in front of you. Staff also went over the minimum road width requirements of this plat dedication, and if you have any questions related to that point, I'd defer to staff on that. As the municipal surveyor mentioned, DNR has jurisdiction over determination of section line easements. I'm not entirely sure procedurally if you rule in favor of petitioner tonight how your resolutions are going to be drafted. And so I would just use my time to make a recommendation for how, having heard the Board of Adjustment hearing, how a potential revision to finding of fact 3 and 4, which is page 56 of your packet, could be revised. Because what petitioner is trying to avoid is, after this hearing, bouncing back up to the Board of Adjustment again, and then this case coming back to the Platting Board. So my recommendation for the revision of finding of fact number 3 and 4, and they mirror each other, should this board determine that the facts are in favor of making the recommendation, is an explicit statement that the DNR has jurisdiction over the determination of the existence of section line easements. The DNR's determination of a 33-foot wide section line easement directly abutting the eastern boundary of this subdivision, and the municipal surveyor's concurrence the DNR determined a 33-foot wide section line easement directly abutting the eastern boundary of this subdivision, and the municipal surveyor concurred with this factual finding. The Platting Board finds that municipal code requirements for road width are met with the required plat dedication. And then the second full sentence, and the same modification would be suggested for finding of fact 4. And I'm happy to speak slower and repeat, but I...
Ms. Lipson, I do have a question.
Yes.
Is there any possibility that you might have a copy of your edits so we could
I'm happy to write out in a more legible form than I currently have and present that, but that is the language that I'm proposing.
Okay.
And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lipson. Any questions?
I guess my question to you is, are you saying you're in agreement with the findings of fact of number 3, that the total width of the 58 feet available for the future construction of Bonnie Lane Road is acceptable?
Yes. We support the resolution. However, based on the way that the Board of Adjustment deliberated, it is my opinion that the Board of Adjustment took issue with this board having authority to make a factual finding as to the existence of this section line easement, saying that it's not this board's duty, presumably because of how complex it is to determine what a section line easement is. And therefore, I would emphasize that the DNR is the authority for determination of section line easements.
Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner?
Thank you, and I will write out my proposed revisions.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? I should back that up. Anyone else wishing to testify in this matter? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, hello, sir. Oh, can I have you turn on the mic? Thank you. And then please state and spell your name for the record.
All right. Before I begin, I am the president of the Glen Alps Community Council, and I'm requesting 5 minutes. My name is Rob Brown, R-O-B-B-R-O-W-N. I'm also one of the appellants in the case as well. I do live at 13688 Canyon Road. Both the applicants and the appellants in this case agree that the Platting Board does not have the authority to determine whether or not there is a section line easement. So why are we here without an alternative solution for access, and why are we having a meeting without a legal determination of this matter? The mills using our properties, Carol Ashlock, Bonnie Kudnahufsky, and mine, is not legal access. The mills asserting that there is a section line easement for their use is theft of an entire acre of our properties. As a reminder, the Board of Adjustment instructed you all to consider the Falsey letter, but also the conflicting evidence, not just the Falsey letter, and all I'm hearing is talk about the Falsey letter so far. There is conflicting evidence submitted by Tom Meacham in your packet as well, which you should consider, and the Board of Adjustment has instructed you to do so. On page 3 of the staff packet, you do have the municipal surveyor stating she made a mistake during the Cannon Road project. Her statement in your packet is also flawed again, as she reiterated today. She states that there is a section line easement on, quote, the east side of the mill's property. This case is before the Platting Board again because of what is being attempted on the west side of the Rohaley homestead, which is next to the mill's property. So her point is moot, really. It's not representative of the actual issue at hand. Her statement asserts that there is a section line easement on the mill's property, which no one is arguing for. I requested a meeting with this same surveyor 3 times before the first Platting Board and never received a callback or response. So here she makes another mistake, unfortunately. She changed her opinion. We have an incorrect email and no acknowledgement of the issues in the appellant's brief, which is the conflicting evidence I mentioned. We see no review of Tom Meacham's brief and an incorrect location of the section line. Municipal employees didn't include our comments in the first Platting Board meeting, and they haven't addressed the situation on the ground. The reality here is the mills do not have access, legal access to Tract A using Bonnie Lane. The mills only have permissive access through my property. There is no recorded easement. The mills pass through a locked gate, which is 100% on my property. Bonnie Lane does not purely exist on their property. Our lands were subject to acts that reserved for power use in 1920, our lands. And we have provided the proof. It's in your packet. We have the homestead documents also specifically showing that notation, which means there is no section line easement. On page 4 of your packet, you have Greg Soule from Private Development under Improvements stating that since the proposed Tract A is not for development, yet on page 2 of the previous staff packet for case S12713, under the title request, it specifically says that the purpose of the plat is, quote, to reserve land for development in the future. If there is no future development planned, as the applicants state, then the Platting Board should put a restriction on this property stating that. If the mills do plan for the development, as they also state, the legal access should be well established and not the present situation. The Platting Board should require the access to be completely on the mill's property. Greg Soule does not even address Tract C in his letter and how it would be accessed. His opinion doesn't address Tract C, which contains the overwhelming majority of acreage, so it's not appropriate to utilize his opinion as it's not complete. I spoke with Mrs. Mills and one of the applicants on the phone when I learned of this application. They assured myself and my neighbor Bonnie that this quote was just a survey. I asked them repeatedly if there was anything else they wanted to tell me, and they insisted there wasn't. Instead, the mills are requesting the muni to make our property into a highway for travel and ruin the tranquility which we value. It is unfortunate they have chosen this path and this encroachment to occur without a single attempt to further explain themselves in the neighborly manner which used to exist on our private road. The Platting Board tonight is to decide if the municipality would like to continue in these proceedings. You don't have the authority to determine the section line easement when it is being called into question. Both sides of this case have asserted that. The only correct thing to do is widen the right-of-way on the mill's property and drop any pretend access through our properties.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown? Mr. Quain.
Thank you for your testimony. You brought up conflicting information and evidence a couple times and said that the Board of Adjustment asked our board to address that.
Yes.
Where are you getting that from?
Well, it was read off by your staff here at the beginning, right?
Well, she talked, the Falsey letter.
There was 3 things.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be read again I don't have it memorized, but.
Okay, I mean, I've got those 3 things. I felt like you were talking about other conflicting information.
The conflicting evidence, yes. Tom Meacham's letter, yes, sir.
Okay.
2 letters, yeah. But, so Tom Meacham, Bill Falsey stepped away because of possible conflict of interest, and so Tom Meacham took over and wrote the brief to the Board of Adjustment. That brief is included in your packet, and Tom Meacham will also speak tonight and can answer more questions regarding his testimony, his brief.
Thanks. I was just kind of going off of the conclusions on page 11, 1 through 5, but yeah.
And what is the third condition states about conflicting evidence as well? Yeah.
I don't see that the third condition, whether there is, the Board of Adjustment does not conclude whether there is or is not a section line easement along Bonnie Lane Road.
Yeah, and to reconsider the Falsey letter and the conflicting evidence.
I've just not seen the conflicting evidence part.
Maybe staff can read it out. Does it not say something about conflicting evidence?
Through the chair, so the decision on page 11 reads, "The Board of Adjustment remands the case to the Platting Board for further consideration to determine whether the Mills subdivision complies with street width code requirements. And the Platting Board must consider the Falsey letter, the conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity, and whether Bonnie Lane Road complies with street width code requirements." So it states the conflicting evidence regarding the section line easement's validity and whether Bonnie Lane complies with the street width code requirements.
Thank you.
Okay, regarding the section line, I made that more complicated than it needed to be.
Yeah, regarding the section line easement, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public wishing to testify? Good evening. Can you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Tom Meacham. I have a private legal practice in Anchorage, and I'm representing Rob Brown, Carol Ashlock, and Bonnie Kudnahowski. My last name is spelled M-E-A-C-H-A-M. At the outset, I would like to respectfully disagree with the attorney for the surveyors, the subdividing entity. The municipal platting board does not have authority to determine the validity of a section line easement, nor is the Alaska Department of Natural Resources the last word on whether a section line easement exists. That authority rests with the Superior Court and the Supreme Court of the state of Alaska. And we have shown in this case that Power Site Classification 107 covered the Rohaley homestead before it was entered and after it was entered and after it was patented. And the fact that that Power Site classification was there meant that no section line easement could be found on the west side of the Rohaley property because section line easements only arise on public lands not reserved for public purposes. It's our position that DNR inadequately and in error considered this situation. And I don't really intend to debate in front of the Platting Board the validity of the easement because it's our position that the Platting Board doesn't have authority to determine that issue. And this was certainly emphasized in our brief, and the subdivider's brief also states at page 2, the heading, "Deliberation of the existence of a section line easement on appellant's property is beyond the scope of this platting action." And so I think the general consensus should be that there should be no mention in the decision of the Platting Board regarding whether a section line easement exists on the west side of the Rohaley homestead, which is now owned by Ashlock, Brown, and Kudnahowski. And if adequate width for a access easement to the proposed subdivided land needs to be gained, that can all come from the people that own the land, which would be the Mills subdividers. It doesn't have to come from a contested section line easement, and I feel certain that if the easement is still mentioned in the final decision of the Platting Board, that it will probably be revisited by the Board of Adjustment. And so it's our position that the Platting Board doesn't have authority to determine whether a section line easement exists or doesn't in a situation where the property owners contest the existence of the easement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meacham. Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Meacham. I think we're all interested in not being appealed, and we're all interested in avoiding an appeal back to the Board of Adjustment and, if necessary, to the Superior and Supreme Courts. I think it would, and I understand that you do not agree that the Platting Board has authority to litigate the validity of section line easements. However, if you would be willing to provide case law that would, some sort of citation that would help the Platting Board or the municipal attorney to understand your position, that would be very helpful.
Through the chair, Ms. Bryan, I have outlined the legal position of the appellants in the brief that went to the Board of Adjustment, and I can specifically, to address your request, I can point out exactly where we believe the Department of Natural Resources erred in their conclusion that there was a section line easement. And it all revolves around the 1866 statute, which allowed section line easements to be reserved on land not reserved for public purposes. It's our contention that Power Site Classification 107 continued to reserve the Rohaley land for public purposes even after it was patented to Mr. O'Haley, because of a clause that was contained in his patent that basically says, under statutory authority, if the land is needed for power site purposes, it can be taken from Mr. O'Haley with no compensation. If the land had been unreserved and thus available for section line easements, that paragraph would have never appeared in his patent. So that basically is our position, and I could outline that fairly briefly for municipal staff and planning staff if you wish.
I'm personally fascinated by this. I'm not on the Board of Adjustment, so I but thank you. I don't have any more questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bryan.
I have a question.
Ms. Pennington?
For the previous gentleman, mostly about the conflict of interest. So if he's identified that there's a potential conflict of interest and a person involved has recused themselves from the process, then should we be considering his information as evidence? So if he's raised his hand and said, I'm a conflict of interest, then the information he's given is also a conflict of interest.
Are you speaking
Mr.
regarding
Falsey's letter?
Mr. Falsey? Well, that is the attorney.
Mr. Chair, I don't believe that there was an identified conflict of interest. I think, I'm just guessing, but I think Mr. Falsey thought as matters proceeded, it might develop into a conflict. I don't have any idea what prompted him to decide to recommend that I take the case. I certainly don't have any conflict, but I can safely say you could probably disregard the Falsey letter if you needed to, because it's our position you don't have the authority to determine whether the section line easement exists or doesn't exist. And even his reasoning in his letter did not consider the power site classification issue, which is the primary or the sole reason why my clients feel there is no section line easement there.
Well, thank you. Again, as members of the Platting Board, our job is the responsibility to take the information that's in front of us and make that decision based on the staff packet and all the surrounding information. And we do thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to testify? Good evening. Can you please state your name and then spell it for the record, please?
Yes, good evening. My name is Joan Priestley, and I live just to the north of the Rohaley which is now Lewis and Clark subdivision, and the Mills subdivision in question. I'm a little bit new to this, but I've been involved in successful appeals from Platting Board decisions several times, and successful appeals of a Board of Adjustment decision one time, soon to become 2 times. I have a case before the Alaska Supreme Court presently. And the problem I see with this is that you've been put in somewhat of a catch-22 situation, because the Board of Adjustment ducked the issue quite clearly, said that the B of A does not conclude whether there is or is not a section line, but instead it remands the case to the Planning Board, it doesn't say clearly to determine if there's a section line easement or not, but only to determine whether the Mills subdivision complied with the street width code requirements. However, to make that determination, embedded in that is there a section line easement or not? Because if there is, then they probably do have the right to use that property without compensating the owners. If there is not a section line, then they do not have the right to do that. However, I will tell you from reading innumerable Alaska Supreme Court cases along the way to the appeals that I've been involved in and have written up, the courts consider the interpretation of legal documents to be their exclusive purview. And I think that's where this issue is headed, and the courts will be very quick to remind you of that fact. The conflicting evidence consists of not only the fallacy packet, really, not just his short letter, but Tom Meacham, who is an attorney who's dealt with land use issues for 50 years, also wrote 2 letters on this. I just want to leave you with one other thing. Many of the appeals I've been involved with also involve S4 groups, so over time I've kind of learned what to look for. And what I see on page 27 of your packet is that Bonnie Lane is really represented as a pencil straight line. And the problem is that I've driven it many times. It's not straight. It curves around and it curves back. And in the area at tract A, if you look really closely, you can see that it's not there. It's not a straight line. It's entirely on the other property. They have repeated that same diagram in one way or another on page 81, 89, 95, 97, 119, and 121.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Priestley.
It becomes somewhat of a big lie technique, that it looks like it's very straight and is amenable to section line division, but the reality is it's not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Ms. Priestley?
I was just, can you actually just briefly sum up your testimony?
I'm so sorry. I
Okay.
can't hear and can't see anymore.
Just briefly sum up what you just said. So give a summary of what you just said, because you were cut short of your time.
You're underwater. I'm so sorry. You have to holler, dear.
Okay.
She asked you to, since you were cut off on time, to summarize your points again.
Again?
Yeah, just summarize your points briefly, if you can.
Okay, and the main point I believe is that, as Tom Meacham has said also, I believe that the interpretation of legal documents like this is beyond the purview of this board. I believe it's a violation of the separation of powers, because the judiciary claims anyway the exclusive right to make that determination. Therefore, I think that it would be appropriate to table this issue until such time as a judiciary determination of this section line issue is made, because it will be made sooner or later in this case. Number 3 is that I find that the representations over and over and over and over in these various pages by S4 is not accurate and possibly could be said to be misleading. I believe it was Churchill who talking about bombings of the cities, said that once one bomb falls in it is an accident, 2 is a coincidence, 3 begins to look concerted, and this misrepresentation of the contours of Bonnie Lane shows up 7 times in the S4 documents that is in your file. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the audience wishing to speak?
My name is Carol Ashlock. I live at 13921 Bonnie Lane Road. Is that too close? How's that? Is that better? I have testified before this board before, and some different members. I'm at the very end of Bonnie Lane, and like the mills, some of my land, smaller portion, is on the other side of Rabbit Creek. So this greatly affects me. I am going to kind of alter what I was saying because I think these points have been made pretty well by Mr. Meacham and Brown and Ms. Priestley. The issues regarding the section line easement and legality of it, of determination. The issue with the municipal surveyor on several accounts, incorrect information, looping it back around, and complete lack of effort to reply to multiple calls on my behalf, the Cook's behalf, and or Gudowski's behalf, other partner, and the Browns' behalf. Also, Thomas Meacham's brief not being included and incorrect location. We talked about the no legal access. So to ignore these legal documents is really grossly egregious, to be quite candid with you. Again, we were not notified. We were never notified from S4. And the other thing is that all the years, I knew Mrs. Mills myself, probably about 20 years, and every single time I've seen her daughter's here, she can tell you this, she admonished me not to develop this property. I mean, I'm not a NIMBY, but she was very adamant about all of it, up until a couple of months before she unfortunately recently passed in January. Had Rob Brown testify for her. What I'm wondering is this portion of land that they're looking at is severe wetlands. I mean, there are water flows this big shooting across there, culverts, multiple places. That land is absolutely not going to be buildable. There's a road on the west side of their property. I don't mean west side of Bonnie Lane. That's the east side of their property, but on the west side of the property, with access to 2 major arteries, to Rabbit Creek and DeArmond. So Messina, Cox, and 120th are right there. And there's housing over there. Why would they not consider that? No, instead, there's no regard, there's no discussion. Just, we only want to subdivide it in 3 portions, which, we all know is not the case. I mean, how Mrs. Mills' signature or name got on this is beyond me, because she admonished us even a couple of months before she passed away. So I want to ask you to consider that, and consider that there are other options out there in addition to all these other complications. And we do have the resources, and we will continue to address this, because this is our family's legacies as well. Okay? Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ashlock. Any other member of the public wish to come speak? Thank you. Ms. S4.
Thank you. Craig Bennett with S4 Group, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. I was the petitioner's representative on this case. And the 3 items we're looking at, Falsey letter, section line easement, and street width code requirements, I believe it all been addressed pretty well by staff. Section line, DNR says it's there. The confusing thing is it doesn't really matter to this subdivision. We're not using it, but it's there. And street width code requirements, we are meeting the street width codes per traffic and private development, so that's not really a question either. So I'm just here to answer any questions the board may have for me.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. Are there any final questions from staff, or from the board to staff? And staff, would you care to take some time for any rebuttal?
Through the chair, to the board, we're happy to answer questions, but we have no rebuttal.
Thank you. Ms. Wessel?
I have one question for the municipal surveyor. Where exactly is the error or the conflicting evidence between Tom Beecham's assessment and your assessment?
I'm not going to address, through the chair, this is the municipal surveyor, I'm not going to address, I'm not going to get engaged in lawyerly discussion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going to tell you that what I didn't see, and I think I said this before, was that the range line, according to the determination by DNR, the range line, the date of survey of that is what has precedent, and it came prior to the date of entry. And that's the basis of the DNR determination. And that's all I'm saying, is that that makes sense to me, and I didn't look at that when I made my determination, and that was my error for not looking at that. So I'm not going to speak to the legal side of this and get in the weeds on it, because I'm not qualified to.
Thank you. You answered the question.
Mr. Quinn? Oh, thank you. All right, any final questions? At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. Again, this case requires two individual motions to be voted on separately. What is the will of the body? May I have a motion to approve? The motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Bryan and seconded by Mr. Quinn. For the first motion, Ms. Bryan, will you care to please state your motion?
I move in case S12765 that upon reviewing the falsy letter and the municipal surveyor's revised conclusion, the Platting Board has determined that a 33-foot section line easement does exist on the east side of the Mills property.
Ms. Bryan, would you care to please speak to your motion?
Thank you. We are a fact-finding body that may be appealed if necessary, but relying on the evidence before me, as well as representations from the municipal surveyor, that there is a section line easement. We rely on what's in the packet, and I have to find that fact based on what I see in the packet.
Thank you. As a seconder, Mr. Quinn, please speak to your second.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Ms. Bryan. DNR has said it's the section line easement's there. The municipal surveyor has said it's there. I think the best information available to us is that a section line easement is there, and I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other board members care to add findings? Hearing none, can we please vote? All right, the motion has passed for, oh, it's failed. Oh, I strike that. The motion has failed. We have 5 yeas and 2 nays. 4 yeas, 2 nays. Okay, moving on to the second motion is for the street width requirement. May I please have a motion? All right, motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Quinn and seconded by Ms. Pennington. Mr. Quinn, can you please state your motion?
I move in case S12765 that the Platting Board has determined that the Mills subdivision and Bonnie Lane Road do comply with the street width requirement of 25 feet on the subdivision side.
Would you please speak to your motion, Mr. Quinn?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be supporting my motion. I think private development and the traffic department address this in the staff packet, and I will be supporting it. Thanks.
As seconder, Ms. Pennington, can you please speak to your motion?
I move in the case of S12765 that the Platting Board has determined that the Mills subdivision and Bonnie Lane Road, is that right? Bonnie Lane? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you. I second it. I have no further comments.
Thank you, Ms. Pennington. Any other members wish to add findings? Ms. Wessel?
I would like to add a finding on the packet on page 105 as an email from Michael Walter stating that the right-of-way has the following comments for case number S12713, in that if the right-of-way is to be dedicated, 30 feet would be a minimal acceptable. 25 feet / 25 feet of right-of-way is not enough to build a proper road, especially in alpine terrain.
Thank you. All right. And can I please call for a vote? All right, we have 4 yeses and 2 noes. The result has failed. The motion has failed. Are there any comments? Hearing no comments, I make a motion to adjourn. May I ask for a motion to adjourn? All right. Hearing no objections, we are adjourned at 8:26 p.m., May 1st, 2024. Thank you, everyone.